Movie Guys Improvise. You are listening to
Chill with Realms.
Jurassic Mark
and Faerhad Targaryen. Last episode, we were talking about a classic from way back in the day, Forbidden Planet. Great movie in its own right. Again, go and check it out if you haven't already. For today's episode, I wanted to talk about one of, if not the biggest superhero movie from 2016, Captain America Civil War. This movie was probably really hotly anticipated back when it came out. Probably broke a lot of box office records. I would not be surprised. And most people probably loved it. Most people probably absolutely loved this movie, but I didn't. And I'll get into that later. I just want to let you gentlemen know I did not really like this movie whatsoever. I mean, I guess I enjoyed it, but I took a ton of issue with it. But I understand that my opinion is a very, very unpopular opinion, so I'd rather start with your guys' opinions first. I didn't really talk to you guys that much about it before, but I want to hear first, like, your guys' initial impressions and after having checked it out recently for this episode.
I mean, I enjoyed it, although there were flaws about it that I did pick up.
So you're saying that it wasn't, you liked it, you enjoyed it, you thought it was a good movie, even though it wasn't perfect?
Yeah.
Okay, that goes for almost any really, really good movie. But yeah, I can't say I enjoyed it all that much. But I did enjoy it, but not as much as I think I would have if this movie was done better. And I'll get to that way, way later.
Well, this one's hard to evaluate for me because on the one hand, I did like many aspects of it, and I'd say I like the film as a whole, but some of the themes honestly make me feel flat out uncomfortable. And I think especially now, the message it's trying to send, I feel would rub a lot of people the wrong way upon repeat viewings.
Interesting. That's a very interesting take. To be honest, I'm not, and like we can definitely talk about the themes that the movie set, but I'm not entirely sure what you're referring to, but I definitely want to know what it is.
Well, we can get into that.
Right.
But,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
In due time.
So, but you both enjoyed the movie, correct?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say so.
You both liked the movie a good amount.
Yep.
Okay. Are you guys totally cool and ready for me to tear it to shreds as professionally as I possibly can?
Hulk smash. Go, man.
Okay. All right. Let's get into it then. Let's get into it. First things first, the first issue I have with this movie right off the bat is the name of the movie, Captain America Civil War. It can be argued that the title of the movie is Captain America and the subtitle of the movie is Civil War, because this is essentially Captain America 3. Okay, there was Captain America the First Avenger, then there was Captain America the Winter Soldier, which in my opinion is the better movie and one of the best movies of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then we have Captain America Civil War. So, question for you gentlemen. Does this movie belong to Cap? Yes or no?
I'll let Mark get this one first.
Oh, well, thank you kindly. I'd say yes, but by a thin margin.
Okay, yes, but by a thin margin. Okay, Realms?
I don't know. They bounced around a lot. So I'd say they should have just kept it as an Avengers movie.
Okay, alright, so essentially you're saying that this movie belongs to the ensemble cast, not just Cap.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's where I was getting at with that question. Does this movie belong to Cap? If yes, then the Civil War storyline has not been done justice. I don't really read the comics all that much, but I respect them because we wouldn't have any of these movies, obviously, without Stan Lee and, the Marvel Comics in general. In the comics, the Civil War was a massive crossover story involving at least a dozen superheroes. Okay? And if the answer is yes, why was this movie marketed showing Iron Man as just as important of a character as Captain America? The marketing including hashtag teams, whose side are you on, etc., etc. If this was purely a Captain America movie, then why would they be making us choose sides? That's the way I see it. If no, if the answer is no, this movie does not belong to Cap, then obviously the title shouldn't have been Captain America Civil War. It shouldn't have had Captain America in it. In fact, this movie, and I want to hear your guys' opinion on it, this movie could have been alternatively titled Iron Man Civil War, and that would have been just as appropriate as a title. If that happened, like if Iron Man Civil War was an official alternate title to this movie, then my issue with the title would have been resolved. But what do you guys think? In terms of, my harsh opinion there.
They should have just named it Captain America vs. Iron Man.
Hey, I would take
Freddy
that.
versus Jason.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. I agree with you there too. Because that same year, 2016, there was this one little movie called Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice.
God. Yeah, I forgot about that one.
Damn, that was the same year?
Same year. Yep.
Oof.
Yeah. So.
Sorry, carry on. I just feel old.
No, that was just to go along with what Realms was saying. Like, yeah, we may have some strong opinions of the Batman vs. Superman movie, but it was titled as such to show that both of these characters are as vital as the other, and the same, I would say, as Captain America. So this was obviously a very personal story for Captain America. It is literally his movie because it's his name in the title. However, I would argue that it's just as personal of a story for Iron Man. Would you guys agree?
Yeah. It could have been Bucky's movie too.
True. Yeah, this was also a very personal story for Bucky, and that's another problem that I have with the movie as we're going into it. So, the presentation of this movie is another thing that I took issue with. It very obviously does not have the presentation of a solo Captain America film. This was an ensemble film like an Avengers movie. Anthony Mackie, who plays Falcon, said this was basically an Avengers movie. He called it Avengers 3.8 at some point.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the last big thing that I'm going to get into is the plot of the movie itself. So, if this was truly supposed to be all about the Civil War between superheroes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, then they shouldn't have included the entire subplot of the other Winter Soldiers. They shouldn't have included the subplot about Barrett Zemo, who was basically out for revenge from both Hydra and the Avengers, which is what the movie is really about. Okay, there was one point during the movie, during the epic airport fight, that Falcon said himself, "This isn't the real fight." I don't know if you guys remember hearing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's basically, I took that as him saying this Civil War is not the real fight. So that honestly really pissed me off, is that the movie is admitting to us that the conflict we're seeing between superheroes is not the real conflict that we should be focusing on. Now, speaking of conflicts, and we are going into spoilers, obviously, throughout this entire movie. So, first things first, like the beginning of the movie, before I get into full-on spoilers, they turn Crossbones, who is the character that they're after in the beginning of the movie, they turn him, who is a supervillain to Captain America in the comics, into like a B-tier villain. Captain America fights him, and then he's killed by Scarlet Witch, which then sets off the events of the Civil War because she accidentally kills a bunch of innocent people, right?
Right.
Now, the end of the movie is Iron Man learning for the first time how his parents actually died and who killed them. Now, before we all got together for this episode, I asked you gentlemen to check out the How It Should Have Ended video. Did you guys have a chance to check that out?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's
funny.
pretty funny. Oh, sorry, go ahead, you.
Jinx.
Yeah, knock on wood.
So the scene in particular from Hishe, which I'll include in the description below, is the part where Tony is asking Cap, "Did you know?" And then Cap first responds by saying, "I didn't know it was him." Tony responds again by saying, "Don't bullshit me, Rogers. Did you know?" And then he says yes. So Tony proceeds to hit Captain America and then point a rocket, like a little mini missile rocket, at Bucky, who then proceeds to apologize and explain that he's taking responsibility for his actions. Then Captain America interrupts saying, Bucky, no, that wasn't you. And then Bucky responds by saying, I can speak for myself, Steve. And then he proceeds to sincerely apologize. So in the actual movie, there was a scene where Captain America and Bucky, they're on their way to Siberia, right, to find the facility that has the information about the other Winter Soldiers. And Bucky is admitting that he was the one who did those things. Like, Cap says, but that wasn't really you. You know, you were mind controlled. But Bucky responds, yeah, but I did it. To me, I thought that was him actually taking responsibility for his actions. But that scene really didn't hold any weight in the movie, because if that scene was deleted, it really wouldn't have changed the movie at all whatsoever. He fights for his life when Tony finds out that his parents were killed by him. Here's the thing with that, and I know I'm talking a lot, and I really want you guys to have a chance to talk as well. If you are learning for the first time how your mother and father were killed, and the killer is right there in front of your eyes, are you really going to act rationally? That's the thing, because Tony learned who his parents' killer was, and he was right there. And Cap and the rest of the audience expected him to be calm about it. I didn't. I could totally understand why Tony was raging off at them.
Well, I think the motivation was supposed to be understandable, though. Like, I don't think we were supposed to think Tony was in the wrong there.
I'm glad you feel that way, Jurassic Mark, but Captain America didn't feel that way, neither did Bucky, and neither did potentially a large amount of the audience. I think a large amount of the audience are probably saying, why couldn't Tony just keep calm? Obviously, he was mind controlled there. I don't agree with that. I do not agree with that whatsoever.
I don't know. That kind of feeds into the whole Team Tony versus Team Captain America theme. Like, people that didn't feel he was acting rationally were Team Captain America, and I mean, I honestly think that he was in the right, in my personal opinion.
Got it. Okay. I guess now would be a good time to ask, while you guys were watching the movie, whose side were you on? Team Cap or Team Iron Man?
It varied in different moments of the movie.
Interesting.
I'll be honest, this, and I'm sorry, I don't want to filibuster or anything, but this gets into the thing I really take issue with in this movie. I think the characters are well motivated. I think the movie gets you to sympathize with people on two sides of a conflict, which isn't easy to do, and I would commend them for it. But I think the point the movie is basically making is that superheroes should not be subject to accountability. And I think that's a really terrible message to be sending, especially now, considering what's going on in the world with, like, people who enforce our laws not being held accountable to the people they're supposed to be serving. And, like, the movie acts like it's going to have this conversation earnestly in, like, the first half hour by showing us all the damage that these people have done and all the lives that they've destroyed. You think that this movie is going to have that very serious conversation, and it takes itself very seriously. But then it kind of ditches the whole Sokovia Accords thing in a way that makes it sound as though the people who wanted these laws were misguided or stupid or bamboozled. So we never really get to a resolution there. Like, what Cap is basically saying, and what his friends are basically saying is, yeah, we operate above the law, but you can trust us, we have the people's interests at heart. But you're also killing people in the process, and don't those people have a say in how you act? I think the movie raises these questions, and it doesn't really make an honest effort to answer them. If I sound a little bit ticked off, I apologize. It's just that this legitimately bothers me, but I digress. Somebody tell a joke. By the way, speaking of which, where were the jokes in, like, the first 40 minutes of this movie? Like, it's a Marvel movie. Nobody says anything funny for, like, 45 minutes. It's just all gray and dour, you know? Like, it gets funny around the airport, but anyway.
Wow.
That heavy tone.
Yeah, I mean, it's It's also like a very physically gray movie. Like a lot of the scenes are like, they look gray. You've got like wet concrete everywhere, but I digress.
Yeah, I really didn't even understand why they wanted to try to control the Avengers. Because, like, from the examples that they showed on the screen,
yeah,
like, what else could they have done aside from not let the Hulk go buck wild on random property? You know, they're dealing with forces that, you know, we as regular humans weren't equipped in those movies to handle. So, you know, there's gonna be collateral damage. Like, what do they want aside from being able to keep track of where they are? What does that serve?
I get that. I think the issue though is that nobody really. This is a point I think they make in The Dark Knight. Like, nobody elects superheroes. Like, they just sort of assert themselves. So who do they answer to when they step out of line? And if they're supposed to be serving us, do we have a say in how they operate? I guess that's my point.
Okay. For me, it was more like, all right, if they have a say on how they operate, all right, people are attacking the city.
Yeah.
What different can you tell them to do? Like, a lot of the damage that's, you know, happening, it's not intentional from the heroes, so it's like they can't really do much different.
I think, like, in the context of the universe, it makes more sense than it would in real life. Like, you know, the decisions that are made in this movie. Mm-hmm. But they're also evoking, like, real-world issues, I think, intentionally, because I think they want brownie points for the thoughtful script, but then they don't really do anything with those, you know? Like, again, the Sokovia Accord thing, it really only affects the first, like, half hour of this movie, and then it's all about, like, the Siberian Supermen. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to drag this down. I apologize.
JM, neither of you...
The movie kind of brought it upon that.
JM, neither of you apologize. Never apologize for speaking your mind, especially because I was ranting for like almost 10 minutes before either of you gentlemen had a chance to say anything at all. Never apologize. In fact, I think I agree with both of you on what you're saying. JM, you explained it very, very concisely and in a very detailed manner as well, and I appreciate that. Realms, you were echoing some of the sentiments I had as well. So here's my perspective on it. JM, you're absolutely right that the superheroes should try to take some accountability, and that's what Tony was feeling. Tony was starting to feel basically the way you were explaining your thoughts and sentiments about the actual theme the movie was trying to get at in order to earn brownie points. Now, Realms, the perspective you have is the other side of the argument, which is, what would New York City have done if the Avengers didn't show up during the Chitauri invasion? That's the thing. And going back to that Hishe video, Hishe, I'm not sure how we're supposed to pronounce it, the government was going to shoot a nuke to New York City, and that's how they were going to solve the problem, which probably would have killed everybody in New York City, I think, the nuke that they were shooting. On top of that, I wish somebody in the room would have said to General Ross, okay, so if the Avengers didn't show up, what do you think would have happened? What do you think would have happened if we weren't there trying to fight those aliens? And also, you shot a nuke. Was that going to be your way to solve the problem all along? So that's the thing. However, at the same time, JM, going back to your point, I didn't really see any self-reflection on Captain America's part. I didn't really see him taking that responsibility or accountability or ownership of the damage, the collateral damage along the way that you're referring to. I didn't see that self-reflection in him, which is what you were basically saying he should have seen. He was basically saying we can't, well, he didn't actually say this, but he was saying if it weren't for us, nobody would save the day. Like, yeah, that's true, but you also have to consider what else happened, you know? We also have to keep in mind that this is based on the Civil War storyline from the comics, and it was called the Superhero Registration Act. It wasn't called the Sokovia Accords. In the comics, what the government wanted to do was to make all secret identities become public for the public safety. That's what the intent was.
And I guess they don't realize that that public information puts them in danger. Potential danger.
Potential danger, yeah. Now, speaking of comedy in the movie, another little thing I wanted to rant about, if I can pivot to another segue, is the casting for Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and Aunt May. I know the MCU loves to make jokes. They love having a light-hearted, I guess, tone to these movies, but I don't think they made the best casting choice for Aunt May, nor did they do the best casting choice for Peter Parker. Now, I love Marissa Tomei as an actress. Realms, you know this when we were talking about the My Cousin Vinny episode. She's a great actress, but I don't think she came off as the Aunt May that I always used to know. In every single iteration of the character I've seen, she's always significantly older. They made her younger and more attractive to me just so they can add some more jokes of having a hot Aunt May. That's the way I saw it.
That's the vibe it gave off.
Exactly. As for Peter Parker, this was the hottest topic ever. I don't know if you gentlemen remember, but this was the first movie where Spider-Man was in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Before this, Sony was just trying to do movie after movie of just Spider-Man by himself, right? And they ended up rebooting him once, and technically twice, with his first rebooted appearance in Captain America Civil War. It was such a hot topic of who was going to play Peter Parker in Captain America Civil War, but I don't think Tom Holland really sold me as Peter Parker. He's a great actor. He has a lot of fun being Peter Parker, but he doesn't come off as Peter Parker to me. It's really difficult for me to explain it. I also heard somewhere that they wanted to go for sort of like a Harry Potter sort of way of having the new Spider-Man series, but Harry Potter was the story of a child becoming a young adult. Peter Parker is the story of a teenager becoming a grown adult as a superhero. But if they were really going for that, they should have cast an actual 15-year-old in the role of Spider-Man with very little acting history, I guess. Because that's what they did for Harry Potter. Just a little side note, honestly. That's how I felt about that.
I mean, I thought Holland was great. He's older, but, he looks young. He's got the baby face. And, as far as Aunt May goes, I don't really mind changing a character's age or some facet of that ilk, to explore different venues of what this person could be. I didn't take issue with those two.
The only reason I can see for them changing the age of Aunt May was just to add that little bits of comedy. And yeah, it shouldn't really matter changing a character's age, but I just didn't get the Aunt May vibe because she's always meant to be like a sort of like senior citizen elderly woman, because Ben Parker, Peter Parker's uncle Ben, was supposed to be the significantly older brother to his father. So that's the reason why Marissa Tomei didn't really vibe with me. On top of that, yes, I agree with you. Tom Holland was great. He did a great job as Peter Parker. He just still didn't feel like the Spider-Man for me, just me personally. And I think Hollywood has been casting young adults as teenagers for such a long time that the audience has almost forgotten what actual teenagers, how young they actually appear.
Yeah.
Again, that's just my 2 cents there. So
I don't know. For me, having Aunt May younger, it kind of just threw me off. It's just as a Spider-Man fan, it's like you said, not what you would expect. And then as far as the part where you were saying that they should have got a younger actor and thrown them in there like they did with the Harry Potter movies, that would have been a really big gamble, though, because who's to say they would have got lucky that the performance would have been as well as it came off in Harry Potter.
That's true. It definitely would have been a gamble, but Harry Potter was that gamble, and it's Warner Brothers' biggest franchise. So I think the gamble would have been worth it. Again, just my opinion. They did well with Tom Holland because the fans love him. The fans love him as Peter Parker. Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home. Those are probably, in the audience's eyes, some of the best Spider-Man movies that there are. So,
he's fun. I think he's fun.
He is. He has a lot of fun playing Peter Parker, and I can see that in his performance in the following movie where he's in the ensemble, which is Avengers Infinity War. So, going into closing statements, I just want to say another little thing that kind of bothers me about this movie. Honestly, I feel like I might just not like Captain America as a character all that much, because in the comics, he's not exactly superhuman. He's supposed to be like a peak human, like in peak physical human condition, but he's obviously superhuman in the movies. But his amount of strength is so like inconsistent. They established in the Avengers that while he's able to deal some damage to Loki, he's obviously no match for him. Although he's able to stand toe-to-toe against Ultron in Avengers Age of Ultron. Then in this movie, he's able to stand toe-to-toe against Iron Man. So to me, he's a bit overpowered. I loved Black Panther, by the way, but I hated...
Oh, he's great.
Yeah. He and Spider-Man are probably the two best parts of this movie to me. However, Cap is still able to, I guess, beat him in combat. When T'Challa wasn't even wearing his vibranium suit, he was able to overpower Bucky with his metal arm. I don't know if his arm is made out of vibranium as well, but it's definitely a superhuman arm. The same arm that Captain America was struggling against fighting in Captain America the Winter Soldier. But when T'Challa, as the Black Panther, is in his full vibranium suit, Captain America throws his shield at Black Panther and it knocks him off his feet. I really didn't like how Captain America was able to beat Black Panther in combat. I get that Black Panther hadn't had his that special herb that we see him, I guess, consume in his actual movie. He hadn't had that yet. But still, even with the suit on, I feel like his superhuman strength should have been greater than that of Captain America's. I don't like when Captain America basically never misses. He always hits his target. He's just too perfect to me. You know, like, he was able to crush that radio with one hand. I'm like, come on, really? Like, you
Plot
have...
armor.
Yeah, he was able to hold down a helicopter, and they weren't even able to fully establish whether he's stronger than Spider-Man or not, because he was able to also overpower Spider-Man. But I was pretty confident that Spider-Man was supposed to be stronger than Captain America, yet Captain America was aware that if he dropped the plane walkway right on top of Spider-Man, that he would be strong enough to be able to withstand it. He knew that for some odd reason. I get what the movie was going for, though. They were just showing that while Peter Parker is physically superior to Steve Rogers as a soldier, and in fact a super soldier, has the, fighting experience where he can outdo Peter Parker. Also about that airport battle, how did Falcon and the Winter Soldier escape from the webbing that Spider-Man trapped him in? I didn't get that. I also I don't really care for Vision all that much. I don't know about you gentlemen, but I don't care for Vision that much. When he died in Infinity War, I didn't really feel much because I just don't really feel much for that character.
I liked his dad's sweaters in this movie.
Yeah, I liked his outfits, sure.
Yeah. I mean, he's an okay character.
It seems just kind of plain, like just like that video that you showed us, like how the movie should have went. They were joking around saying, "Oh, we have a Superman as well." He's like a plain version of Superman.
Yeah, for how powerful he is. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah.
And as far as Avengers Endgame, I did feel bad for him, but only because not only did he die once, he got brought back to die again, and that was savage.
Oh, yeah, he got brought back to be, like, murdered, right? I mean, like, he was killed, but it was like a mercy kill by Scarlet Witch. So, yeah, that was that. So, yeah, going into my closing statements. Now, I can't really prove this, but I found some really old rumors, and I'll post the links in the description as well, that way back in 2012, Avengers 2 was supposed to be Infinity War, and Avengers 3 was supposed to be Civil War. Like originally, Civil War was supposed to be an Avengers movie. they omitted so many other characters. I mean, Daredevil, who's in the Netflix TV shows, they like to play off, or at least the audience will try to make excuses about how they're street level heroes and all that. Yeah, sure, but that's just Hollywood politics. If they wanted to write a script involving Daredevil and the other Netflix heroes like Punisher, they could have. They just didn't because of Hollywood politics separating the movies from the TV shows. There's also, I think, Ghost Rider in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Again, just little things there. But focusing on my closing thoughts, this movie should have mainly focused on Crossbones, Baron Zemo, and the other Winter Soldiers, because that's what the movie was really about. The Civil War aspect was honestly a distraction, and JM, just like you put it, the themes that they were going for with the Civil War aspect were not fully explored or reflected on all of the characters like they should have. So, yeah. Those are my closing thoughts on this, gentlemen. If you have anything else to add.
Realms, you want to go?
Sure. Let me see. I did want to touch back on a few things, actually. Like, the part about Bucky. Like, do either one of you know, is his whole body metal aside from his head?
I think it's just his arm, actually.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I feel like he had a lot more plot armor than he should have in the beginning, where they were shooting the gunshots at him, and he's just blocking it with his arm. And then even on the roof, Black Panther has him pinned on the ground, and there's a helicopter shooting bullets at Black Panther while Bucky's right there being held down. He's not, blocking or anything.
Yeah.
So I don't understand how he gets through all that without getting shot.
Well played, Realms. Well played. Like I that was a I didn't catch that it was the rhetorical question about is it just his head metal or just his, the question that you asked. But yeah, well played, Realms. Well played.
I honestly wasn't sure.
Oh,
but it seemed like his whole body was, metal the way that they showed it.
Uh-huh. That metal is made of the plot, aka plot armor.
And then
oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, superhero movies tend to play fast and loose with the laws of physics anyway. But
True.
Yeah, but carry on.
And then, as far as the face-off between Captain America and Black Panther, I was actually happy in hindsight to see that, he had Falcon on his team, because I feel, it would have gave off a little bit of an awkward vibe having the two of them face off. The way things are kind of like unfolding this year, even, it would have been kind of like a black versus white kind of theme if he didn't already have somebody on his team that was African American.
Iron Man had War Machine, Rhodey, and he had Black Panther. And Captain America had the Falcon, yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like when they were actually facing off, when he was chasing after Bucky and then everybody stopped and it's just, Captain America staring into the face of Black Panther, I feel like that would have been a little bit weird. If he didn't already have somebody, who's African American that's on his side.
Understood, yeah. I understand your point there.
I guess Miles Morales was unavailable. Oh, well, he would have been on the other side. Never mind. Scratch that.
Yep.
They did hint at Miles Morales' existence in this universe when they showed Spider-Man, Peter Parker, going after, I think, Miles Davis in Spider-Man Homecoming. Yeah. So he exists. He's out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Neat.
Yeah. They'll probably, hopefully, get to Miles Morales eventually. But, yeah.
And question. Well, actually, I'll let me explain before I ask the question, but I felt like the pacing was a little bit off in certain scenes, like the death of T'Chaka. The
former king.
The father, the king of Wakanda, yeah.
Like part of me, I understand, there's a lot of detail that they had to squeeze in without making the movie too long, but it felt a little weird to see the bomb go off and then he dies, and barely 30 seconds later, we're on the next scene. Like, did either of you find any of the pacing weird at any other point in the movie?
Yeah, that happened. Well, yes, twice I found the pacing to be bad. The first would be right at the beginning, which we talked about, when Scarlet Witch just accidentally kills a bunch of innocent people, which sets off the events of this movie. I thought the pacing there was a little bit, too quick, because we move on. The movie kind of moves on. That needed to happen to set the events of the conversation in the movie. But yeah, the pacing there wasn't great. And that's another example there of how the death of the king was not really, it didn't really sink in, It wasn't really brought up that much until Black Panther's own movie again.
Because we had just met him in the movie, maybe 5 or 6 minutes earlier.
Not even. The whole scene was about 3 minutes.
Yeah, so the audience didn't get the chance to really know this guy. So yeah, you're right. It didn't land as hard as it maybe could have.
Yeah.
But maybe they should have made it more fleshed out and developed the character a little bit more, since Black Panther was obviously a vital character to the story. I would go so far as to say Black Panther's role in this movie is similar to Spider-Man's role in the comics for the Civil War storyline.
Right.
That's pretty much my closing thoughts for this movie. If you gentlemen have any other closing thoughts before we go into ratings.
Well, I was going to say, when I first saw this movie in, 2016 when it came out.
Yep.
I really liked it. I did think some of the messages that it was trying to hammer home were questionable, but I was able to look past them. And this time, I couldn't. I'm sorry to drag it down again, but with what's going on in the world right now, I couldn't get over the fact that the movie's kind of siding with the character who's saying that the peacekeepers should operate with little to no accountability. It is still Captain America's movie. He's the guy who's in the title, and he's the title character, and Tony's the only one who admits that he's made a mistake. Okay, at least he's the one who said he was wrong about the cause of the fight. So the movie kind of sides with Cap. And yeah, I know the movie would make more sense in the context of its own story, but that story's being told in the context of our world, and I just think there's something insidious about that message. With that said, I did like the arcs the individual characters had. I thought the second half of the movie was a lot more fun than the first, at least up until the climax, and overall, it's one of the better MCU movies, in my opinion.
JM, I told you, do not apologize, bro. Do not say sorry for your opinion.
We're talking about a summer blockbuster, man, and I'm raining on y'all's parade with this political crap. But
you're not raining on my parade. I agreed with everything you said except for the very last statement, which is this is one of the better movies of the MCU. That I 100% disagree with.
Okay, there we go. Now it's on.
You're essentially saying that this movie, the theme, the message of this movie tries to be deeper than it actually ends up being, because the characters that need to hear the message don't really reflect on it that much.
Yeah, more or less in a nutshell, yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Rums, any other closing statements?
Oh yeah, I just want to say, you don't have to apologize to me either, Mark. But although, sometimes you do want to throw out a little apology because, you never know if Karen might be listening. Karens.
Oh, Karen. Wow. Yeah.
Sorry, Karen.
Gotta watch out for Karen.
Uh-oh.
Going into ratings, I know that my opinion is super unpopular. I made that perfectly clear in this episode. But I'm going to give it a higher rating than I think it deserves. I think the quality of the presentation of the movie was great, but the presentation itself was horrible for everything I already described. I am going to give this movie a 5 out of 10.
Ooh, damn! You said that was higher than you wanted to give it?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Ooh boy. I would probably give it, despite what I said, I'd still probably give it a 7. I did take issue with the theming, but again, like we've been talking about, the Sokovia Accords really don't matter that much in the movie itself. So I'd probably give it a 7.
I would say about the same as Mark. I say a 7 only because this at this point in time we've seen the other Avengers movies, and I personally think they've done better than this. But I'm gonna bump it up to like a 7.5 because of all the Scarlett Johansson scenes that we got to see in there. I used to have a little crush on her, you know what I'm saying?
Hey, no shame in that.
Bro, the best part to me was when Hawkeye had her pinned down, and then I think that's the same portion where she asked, "Are we still friends?"
Yeah.
But that whole scene was hot to me.
Depends on how hard you hit me.
That was a hot scene, but you just made me remember bring up this another part of annoyance to me about how she switches sides at the end, and then she stops Black Panther from chasing Cap and Bucky by tasing him, and then she's like, "Oh, I said I would help you find him, and there's a difference between finding him and catching him," or something like that. That also really annoyed me, that Black Panther was stopped by a taser. Again, oh my god.
And she said that, but you could tell by her face that she knew what was coming out of her mouth was bullshit.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. The character often bullshits, honestly. Yeah, as much as we love Black Widow, she bullshits. She even says she only acts like she knows everything. She said that in Winter Soldier. But yeah.
I mean, she's a spy, she's deceptive.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Good point. I have to admit, gentlemen, I actually thought you guys were both going to give it a higher score than 7, but 7 is a good score, and 5 is the highest that I can give it to be.
I gave it a 7.5.
Okay, true. You gave it a 7.
There you go.
0.5. Okay. Speaking of you, Realms, you're up.
What's up, bro? Oh yes. Okay, so my original plan fell through because with the moving to a new place and everything, and still getting settled in, I didn't really get a chance to actually do what I was planning to do. But knowing that you like Digimon, I think the next movie should be Digimon the Movie.
Oh!
Throw some anime on you.
I love it.
There we go.
I love it. I'm hyped for next week already. Awesome.
Yeah, me too.
And it's already on YouTube, full movie. Don't even have to buy it.
Perfect. Very, very convenient. All right. Digimon the Movie. Nostalgia on deck. All right.
Yes, sir.
Well, that just about does it for this episode of Movie Guys Improvise. You are listening to
Chill with Realms,
Jurassic Mark,
and Faerhad Targaryen. Thank you all so much for tuning in and listening to us, and catch us again next week.
Middle to the haters, ring to the lovers, peace to all, chill vibes only.
Live long and prosper.